Are you going to move the table up? Or?
Yeah, I can move it up here.
Okay. You want to give him an assist? We'll move the table up. Our next speaker, this is going to be kind of complicated. Our next speaker is John's sister, Nicole. And some of you are going to go, wait a minute, John's sister is Jennifer. Well, it's Jennifer Nicole. And she says that her claim to fame is she was forced into siblinghood with Jonathan.
No, he was forced into it with me.
Oh, I'm sorry. He was forced into siblinghood with you. You came first. That's right. And let me know when we're in focus. And hello, Beijing. Gator Tony. You probably heard of me. Anyhow, Nikki, Jennifer Nicole.
There's a lot of more people here. Got my big iPad, my little iPad. I broke my phone last night. So, those that know me know that, yeah, I talk loud, I talk a lot. I usually have a lot to say about nothing. And in this moment, I have, like, nothing to say about everything. I can't put into words how it feels. I forced myself to go on the program because I knew that if I didn't, I would back out. I'm the one with the commitment issues. Jonathan never was. I like paper clips. He likes staplers. I mean, that's just like, that's our relationship in comparison to commitment. So I wasn't going to cheat, but also in not normal form. There's a microphone. Well, I thought there would be a microphone. Where there's a microphone, I have no problem going up to it. So I have no real big stories like some people. I have lots of stories that I'm on Facebook. I'm a social media. Kids are here, but you know. So any feelings I have, you'll see them. Stories I have, I'll share them. But I guess I just want to come up here and because it was hard for my sister, I know too, and I just kind of wanted to say that a week before I went to China, it wasn't just me, it was me and my sister. We worked together as a team. And I psyched myself up for an entire week before I left, and for the 5 days that I was there before he died. And I psyched myself up to go home. We psyched ourselves up to go there and to bring him back, and we told ourselves that we were ready to take him in our care for forever. We knew that it was going to be a long road to recovery, and it didn't stop us. We worked day and night. We were up all night talking to people in Beijing. We were up during the day talking to doctors here. It was not an easy feat. So I psyched myself up. She psyched herself up to go there, to be there, to take care of business, to bring him back. I've spent so much time psyching myself to do that I never psyched myself up to learn how to live without him. And here we are. We're living physically without him. And it's sad, and there's going to be a lot of tears, and there's going to be a lot of laughs thanks to Facebook and story shares. But when it comes down to it, he wouldn't want us to be sad. He would pinch our butts or do something to get us going if we were, upset. And so we need to make sure we keep that in mind. He has a lot of friends. I didn't realize all those people back here showed up. But I guess my point is my normal is forever gone. It's gone. Life is no longer normal. But this is where you find a new normal. And this is where you figure out life without him hugging him or touching him or talking to him. But he's still there. You're going to get signs from him. Stories are there. And I just don't want people like his fear was to forget him. And clearly that will never happen. So that's really what I wanted to say. The one story I guess I do have was the very last time that I saw him was like face-to-face in person, not FaceTime. He's on FaceTime with everybody. I really thought he only FaceTimed me, but clearly I'm not the favorite. But the last time I saw him, I took him to the airport, and there was something different now that I look back about that ride. Almost like he knew there was a chance that he wouldn't come back. I drove him to the airport. We made sure we got Taco Bell before we left, because it's right there off Cimarron. And he in the bathtub. He normally, I say I love you. I'm the I love you person. He's the love you too, or you too, or the literally you and the number 2. Keeping it short and simple. That whole trip, he just kept saying, I love you. Like, he never said it to me. Like I had to say that to him first. Kept telling me he loves me, I love him too. We got to the airport, checked his bags in, walked him up to security. He said, I love you, I said, I love you too. He said, I'm going to miss you, and I said, I'm going to miss you too. And we looked at each other before we had a complete meltdown. He's like, and you don't have tweezers in your bathroom take that. So that was his way of breaking that, and because we were going to lose it. And that's the humor he had. That's what Lauren, Toby, Bo, that's what everybody was saying. That's what everybody here knows Jonathan for. So all in all, we just need to make sure that we stay positive, even in this awful situation, and never forget him, because he's gone. That's all. And anything you want to know, I'll post on Facebook. No stories.
Thank you, Jen. Nikki. Wayne Sutton met Jonathan here in Gainesville through a mutual friend, Ken Wells. This was when John worked at the Center for Library Automation. Wayne?
So, as you said, I met Jonathan through Ken, and at that time, I would go in to have lunch with Ken, and Jonathan, he wasn't mean, but he was less than nice to me. Trying to figure out what was going on there. It was kind of something later that we would coin the phrase, it was sassy Jonathan. So time had passed, Ken had moved on, and I get a call from Ken one day, and he's like, you'll never guess who I just talked to. And he decided that it was time for him to be honest with himself and to come out. I'm like, who? He's like, Jonathan. And by this time, I'm like, Jonathan who? He's like, Jonathan that I worked with at the library. I'm like, oh, okay. Neither of us were really surprised. We kind of knew what was going on. But he said, would you mind reaching out to Jonathan and inviting him to some of the events that you have going on in Gainesville, because as anyone that has come out, a lot of times it's difficult, and he needed a good foundation. So I said, sure, no problem. I gave him a call and invited him to some of the events. He was a little apprehensive, but I reassured him everything was going to be okay, that he would be accepted. And he decided that he would come, and we had an event like the next day. So he came out, and he met what we call the Gator Bears, which is a social group here in Gainesville. He immediately made some connections within the group. He bonded with some people, and they became really good friends. He became a solid foundation for our group. He was a hard worker. He would do anything that we asked him to do to make events and things like that successful. But not only did he become part of the Bears, but he also quickly became a close friend to me. Jonathan affectionately referred to our little group of friends as Heathers or Mean Girls. Of course, now Mean Girls is where the quote comes from. On Wednesdays we wear pink. It was amazing to watch his evolution as he became comfortable with who he was. He was absolutely the life of the party. He would always have a handy flask, as well as being known for his signature drink, which is now known as the Soko. And if you don't know, it's a tequila shot followed by a pineapple chaser. When Jonathan moved to China, his connection and his communications with all of us remained constant. He loved keeping that connection with home. One of the many things that I'm going to miss is the surprising and random messages or posts That would arrive day or night. You know, I mean, you could be sleeping and he would send you a message. He was well known for his quotes, as we've heard many today, his one-liner statement. One of my recent favorites that came from him, just out of the blue, I would like to thank whoever invented basketball shorts and sweatpants. Now, you know, you're thinking, oh, well, he's comfortable, you know, but that would immediately be followed by some photos he had taken of handsome men wearing basketball shorts to show why he loved them so much. Jonathan and I would banter back and forth for a while. I'd say, you're such a stalker. Which he would reply, some say stalk, I say closely observe. Jonathan, in true Southern form, loved to cast a little shade and stir the pot a little bit. And I think that's why he and I got along so well. Another one of his recent quotes you may enjoy. It's never the successful friends posting the inspirational quote. Now that would be followed by a screenshot where someone had posted a successful quote. So that's, you know, and there was good humor in that. But Jonathan had a serious side also. We came to know that as tough love Jonathan. Anytime he would roll into town, he would want to go out. Of course, those of us that didn't have summers off and worked all day, we would protest, to which tough love Jonathan would say, don't you sass me, get your ass up and get ready. In the end, most of the time, we would all cave and we'd go out and we would have a fantastic time. Now, on the flip side, if it were anything he didn't want to do that made him unhappy, he would reply with, I'm right on top of that road. That meant it wasn't going to happen. Or, one of my favorites, if he was really displeased with you, he'd say, go back to Party City where you belong. I don't even know where Party City is. So, anytime Jonathan came home for a visit, you know, we would have a welcome home dinner or a celebration of some kind. And then a couple of weeks later, when he would leave, we would have a going away gathering as well. After the last one, another friend of ours asked, so how many going away parties is Jonathan going to have? I recall very clearly stating every time he leaves. As we celebrate Jonathan's life with one last farewell celebration, I'll leave you with these thoughts. I'm confident Jonathan would want us all to be true to ourselves, to be who we are, to be adventurous, to live our lives to the fullest, and never be afraid to take a chance. There's going to be many moments when something will happen or something is said that we will think, Jonathan would have loved that. He will always be with us in our memories and in our dreams. He had a special bond with those he loved. And we all are the better for even briefly having him in our lives.
Thank you, Wayne. We have a message from Brian Branks. It's an audio message. Brian could not be here. Brian is a fellow American teacher at BIBA who connected with John almost 2 years ago, and they became best friends in Beijing. In fact, maybe before. The day that John arrived in Beijing, he went straight to Brian's after he arrived at the airport. Chris, if you're ready, cue up Brian Branks on speaker.
You're celebrating John, but in honor of the huge mark he left on my life and that of my family, I just wanted to share a story that I feel really captures the qualities that I love about him. John and I were hired to work here in Beijing within roughly 24 hours of each other, and when I think back, that should have been a sign that we would be the best of friends for the next almost 2 years. I arrived in Beijing more than 3 months ahead of my family. So John and I really got to know each other as we explored Beijing and experienced the culture shock of China together. And what a shock it was. One night we went out for some fun, and we had made a couple of new friends, Ashley and Dave, and the evening was great. We went out for a great time, and this wonderful evening ended in extreme frustration. And it was a time and an event that John would never let me forget. On our way home, we decided to stop at McDonald's, and we wanted some late night snacks. We were hungry, and this happened to be the first time that John and I had had any McDonald's food since before we left Florida. So we got our food to go, we jumped in a taxi, and we headed back home to sit outside in our apartment complex and enjoy the best food that we'd had in weeks. So just as we sat down to eat, I reached into my pocket and I realized I couldn't find my phone. I seemed to have lost it somewhere between McDonald's and home, and I completely freaked out. And I was in a full panic, and I rallied Ashley and Dave and John, and we searched around. We retraced our steps. We went to the road. We looked in the dirt, the bushes. We looked everywhere you could possibly imagine that this phone would have ended up. And my reaction was intense, but it wasn't because it was just simply a phone, but because it was my main source of communication with my family back home. And on top of that, my son was born after I had left for Beijing, and all of the pictures of my kids were on that phone. And the thing about this story is that it went down in history as the night that I ruined John's McDonald's, and he never let me forget it. The first McDonald's that he had literally had in probably a couple of months, and it was a complete disaster. The craziness of the night made us laugh repeatedly, although it didn't make us laugh so much that night. When we retold that story or just brought it up in conversation, it made us laugh all the time. But early the next morning, and this is what really taught me a lot about John and his character, and I knew he was a gem of a man, because early the next morning, without telling me, he went back and retraced all of our steps from the restaurant to McDonald's, all the way back to our apartment, and searched every single space that we had been for that phone. He showed up at my door. He did not have the phone with him, but he showed up at the door and he let me know where he had been and what he had done. And I realized in that moment that this is one of the best friends and people that I will ever know. My kids adored John, and he was really a member of our family. He would walk through the door at any time. We would go and meet up somewhere. He would banter back and forth with my daughter. He would always harass me about not being there for the birth of my son Brock. He always said that I was going to end up paying for it later, but he and Brock had an incredible bond, and I will keep that bond alive through pictures and memories. There are so many stories and experiences that I and my family will treasure when we think about John. I will always love him for being the epitome of an amazing person. He represents every quality of what a friend really is. And of all the billions of people on the planet, our paths crossed. And for that, I will be eternally grateful.
Our final speaker is Don Smith. Don will be offering a prayer today at our conclusion. Don met Jonathan at a Gator Bears event here in Gainesville about 5 years ago. The two have been friends since. Don?
Say a prayer with me, please. Heavenly Father, Mother Creator, Spirit in us all, guardian of souls, who will give us comfort on this day of remembrance, guiding strength, who will show us your light through these darkest days. Blessed One, who will bring us serenity as we remember Jonathan and his beautiful eyes and his telling smile. Hear us now, God, as we, his friends,